Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. How are you, Hannah?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. And this is not Beyond the Saga. So thanks for joining us here on Inside the Force, our weekly podcast and YouTube show where we talk about all things Star Wars, everything that's in the news, everything that's out there in the Star Wars galaxy. Hannah here joining me because normally if you don't know already, Hannah and I do a show called Beyond the Saga. It's on our YouTube channel mainly. I mean, it's obviously it's on our podcast feeds as well, but we're dissecting all the stories beyond the movies, beyond the Skywalker saga. So we've tackled everything from the Ahsoka novel to the Star Wars comics to the rise of the Resistance ride at Disney. Any story out there that's out there in Star Wars beyond our normal timeline, we're diving into, because it's a lot of good stories out there that maybe a lot of people don't know about. So we want to talk about those. And the great thing about it is we don't really spoil anything, so you can still listen to us and enjoy it. But this is a little different. Hannah, are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's jump right in. Very, very exciting.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is on this episode is dive into all the latest news from the past week, mainly talking about, which we'll save towards the end, a lot of Bad Batch talk. There was the season finale last week. So we'll talk about that, kind of talk about our thoughts and feelings about season 2. You haven't been on this show to talk about any of that. So we'll get our listeners your thoughts on all of that. And then I think the biggest thing right now is that came out this past week that we'll dive into right now is a brand new trailer for the next Star Wars series that's coming out, Star Wars Visions. Now I know you are holding this. I have a feeling you're holding this series very high on your list since you are a huge anime fan.
Yes.
So I will turn this over to you first. What are your thoughts on this trailer and then the overall series of Visions? What are you expecting to get out of this?
So when I first saw the trailer, I actually saw it in the original Japanese.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Subtitles. So I was so excited, and then I ran to show my husband, but I accidentally clicked on the English dubbed version. So then I was disappointed because I was like, "Oh no, we want that flavor." But I am so excited. I love how they're using different. I wouldn't call it like I love anime, but I don't know enough about anime to like give you proper terms.
Right.
But I appreciate the style of anime. And I love how they go through different, I don't think you would call them genres, but there are different styles of anime that you see in there. You see something like you would see in Full Metal Alchemist. You see something in there that would be very similar to Death Note. You see another one that's very similar to Hayao Miyazaki. So the fact that we're going to be getting various different types of anime, we're getting different artistic versions. Love it. I also think that lightsaber fighting is similar to the style of fighting that makes perfect sense in an anime. So I honestly think it's a really cool way to branch out. Is it too much? To be completely honest, I have no idea. I think we have to see what it's going to be like. But I think it's a very interesting twist on Star Wars. And I guess we'll wait and see if it's too much or if it's just the extra amount of spice we needed in this universe and galaxy. What were your initial thoughts?
Well, to be honest, I was very intrigued with the new style, right? Because we've only known Star Wars really in live action and 3D animation, right? With TV shows. So I was part of me like slapped in my head and said, why didn't they do this a long time ago?
Why?
Yeah, totally. Why? Because, I remember a lot of people still talk about, do you remember the the Clone Wars micro series.
Yes.
That was a 2D animation, illustration. I mean, that was awesome. I mean, I loved it. Unfortunately, it's not canon,
Right.
but it was done really, really well. And I've often wondered why. It just makes you wonder why they didn't do this a while ago and try different animation styles and stuff like that. So I love that part about it. And when we first heard about Star Wars Visions, obviously I was like, wow, interesting. I wonder what that's about. And then you heard this thing about it being unique storyline. So it wasn't necessarily each connected. It wasn't like a episodic series like we're used to. So I actually like that too. I actually give me some separate stories. That's fine. So all that being said, the only thing I'm a little weary about, or maybe we don't even know the full story, but obviously it doesn't seem like these stories are canon, right? Because they're told in a, very Japanese samurai type time and era and style, and which is fine. That means, if it means that this type of culture existed in the Star Wars galaxy somewhere, I'm all for that. That's cool. But, it seems like there's going to be some familiar characters in here as well. So it's almost like different takes and styles of that character. So now, of course, I think any story group member will tell you, just like I always talk about this being an example, but, like who shot first, right? Did Han shoot first? Did Greedo shoot first? Or did they both shoot at the same time? Well, It all depends on who you ask. It's in the cantina, right? You may have said Greedo shot first. I may have said Han shot first. But either way, the fact is two people are sitting there and one of them died. That's the main part of the story, right? The details of it, whatever. It could be, again, it depends on who you ask. So I think the story group has done a good job of explaining that, not every detail is exactly what happened, so
right.
So if you look at one of these stories and you watch it and you, as a storyteller, describe it in a way that makes sense to you, right, in that culture, in that style, then that's fine. I just hope that, and I'll be great with that. I hope that's the case. I'm just a little skeptical that if they bring in some familiar characters, is their story still going to be canon and fit with the other stories that are out there? You know what I mean? So that's the only thing I'm a little worried about is I want these to be canon, but I'm not sure that they're going to be.
I think that's definitely up for debate, and we'll wait and we'll see exactly what happens there. I mean, I'm just excited that we're getting additional stories outside of this Skywalker saga.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I mean, I'm reading the article. I'm looking at the article here that came out with the trailer, and it does say that these stories showcase the full spectrum of bold storytelling found across Japanese animation, each told with a freshness in voice that expands our understanding of what a Star Wars story can be and celebrates a galaxy that has been such an inspiration to so many visual storytellers. The English dub cast includes the voice talents of returning Star Wars actors and talent new to the Star Wars galaxy, including Tamara Morrison as Boba Fett. So he is coming back to voice Boba. So Boba Fett is a character that is in this. He's actually in Tatooine Rhapsody. So you have Boba Fett showing up in that storyline. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder when that takes place. I'm wondering if it takes place in the same universe. Because again, the visual look of it, that's fine. The way you tell it could be different than the way I tell it. But as long as that story fits into the timeline, I'm going to be all for it. And I'm going to praise these things. Right. So, but it looks like you got voice actors like Joseph Gordon-Levitt that's in it, Bobby Moynihan, Mark Thompson, who is the audio genius of the audiobooks and one of our guests on Masters of the Order. You've got Neil Patrick Harris that's going to be a voice. Yeah, Christopher Sean, who voiced Kaz on Star Wars Resistance. Stephanie Shu. You got what you got? Yeah, I mean names. Obviously, there's a bunch of Asian names that I don't know, but obviously, I'm pretty sure they're big time voice actors. So some of the George Takei is in it, you know. So um, Shelby Young, who I think just voiced, she was a couple voices in the Bad Batch. So you got some great actors in here doing this stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to see Boba Fett. I'm trying to see any other familiar characters. Is he the only one?
I will say this though, another thing I'm excited for this series is it looks like we're expanding what the Force is capable of,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something we've been craving for.
You're right.
Film. So I'm very excited to see what else the Force can do, and I think also in there was a lightsaber whip. And that made me so happy because that is canon.
Yes.
Like they exist. Oh, I got so excited when I saw that one. So it will be great.
Yeah, so it looks like according to this list, Boba Fett is the only known character that I can see. So okay, so that's good. That's actually really good.
Yeah.
I like that. I like new characters. I like new stories. That's gonna be cool.
Can't wait. It's gonna be awesome.
So this keeps saying now. Maybe I guess it says experience the entire anthology when it debuts exclusively on September 22nd. So does that mean we're actually going to get the entire series at once?
Well, considering that it sounds like it's not a linear TV show, I'm sure they're going to. Well, I'm not sure, but I'm fairly certain they'll throw it all at us at once.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think that's what I kept reading that it was going to experience the whole thing starting, but I don't on September 22nd. So it doesn't say like it's going to start airing at it, one at a time on there. So It seems like it might be all at once. So that's good.
That'll be nice.
Yes, that would be nice. So all 7, right? I think it's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, all 9. 9 shorts, 7 studios that put it together. So anyway, Star Wars Visions coming in just about a month from now.
Yes. It'll be great.
It will be great. Okay, so moving on. I think we're both excited for that. A couple little news pieces that I thought. I think one of the biggest one I want to talk about too is another clip that came out, which was the clip for the Disney Gallery episode that's coming out this coming Wednesday. It is a 1 episode season 2 finale making of The Mandalorian. And in this clip, you basically had Dave Filoni describing a little bit about Star Wars and about what it means, and the fact that you saw this clip of Mark Hamill actually on set as Luke Skywalker, right? And he described what the cast and the crew was doing when they were just filming that thing. So I don't know. I would definitely say I'm more excited about this than the Star Wars Vision series. What do you think about that clip and this episode coming out?
I just it made me so happy, because when you first watch the finale of Mandalorian season 2, you're like, oh, they got a look-alike actor, and then looks like they did some work on his face.
Right.
Okay, sure. But this confirms that Mark was there, and that he actually did part of it in one way or another. And obviously we'll find out more about it later on, but holy smokes, that makes me so happy, because I think I think on a previous episode we were talking about how who is going to be that Jedi at the end that comes and tries to connect with Grogu. And we were all concerned if it was Luke, what are they going to do with that? But now that we're seeing more behind the scenes and we're seeing it actually was Mark Hamill, I think all of us are breathing a sigh of relief.
Totally agree with that. Yes, totally agree with that. I think, the best part about this clip, obviously, I think is Filoni, describing a Star Wars. I don't know. I feel like, I'm definitely on the Dave Filoni bandwagon. The guy just knows Star Wars, and I keep saying it, but he spent so much time working with George that, he just seems like the clone of George Lucas. Now, not only does he seem like a clone of George Lucas, but I feel like he's actually, I feel like he describes Star Wars more like a fan as opposed to the creator. Right?
I would agree with that, and I would say that with Filoni and also Favreau, with both of them, like they're huge fans. It's obvious, but they're fans in the sense of they want to do it with respect, or they want to do justice. They want to respect what Star Wars means for both young and old. And I think, in my opinion, we can just give Star Wars to those two guys, and we'll all be happy, go lucky.
100%.
That's all I'll say on that. But
yeah.
But I think, you mentioning that he said that he was with George, it's obvious. It's like in everything they do, it is so obvious that they studied, learned. They wanted to take the original creator and they wanted to make this work for him as well.
Yeah.
So it's just, it makes you realize how much respect went into a show like The Mandalorian.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like when George would do interviews and talk about these movies that he was making and stuff like that, you looking back, you can definitely tell, he was speaking as, the person that came up with all this stuff in his mind. Right. And that's hard to do because when you're trying to basically sell your idea to a fan base, you're trying to explain why you did the things you did. Right. Because I felt like he had to explain a lot why Anakin did the things he did, why Luke did the things he did, why Palpatine's doing the things it's like, he has this, he's doing it as a creator, but he's also doing it as a filmmaker.
Oh yeah.
And that's very difficult, to do both, because most of the time you have somebody that's creating and writing it and then you hand it to somebody else to direct and make the movie. Right. So, but when you get guys like Filoni and Favreau, mainly Filoni, that, spent 10, 12 years with him working on the Clone Wars, he's taking the creator, aspects and everything that George told him and taught him. And then he's interpreting it as a fan and then explaining it to the fan base. That's what, to me, makes it such a connection, I think. And I think that's why so many people, I haven't heard anybody talk ill of Dave Filoni. I just haven't heard it. Right. You've heard people trash Kathleen Kennedy. You've heard people trash George, obviously. But I just don't find anybody trashing Dave Filoni. I mean, the guy right now is batting 1,000. And it just makes sense because he understands, like you said, he respects Star Wars. He understands Star Wars. And it's not that hard to understand because in its core, like he says in all his stuff, it's like the stories are about hope and are about family. And then in the end, you're trying to just make people happy about this stuff, right? So it's fantastic, and I just whatever he's involved in, which and you said it, I hope it's everything. I know he can't do everything, but man, whatever you can do, get him on, you got to keep him on it.
Oh, absolutely.
And pay him whatever he wants.
Yeah, seriously. Whatever he wants, it's fine by us.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, Disney Plus Gallery episode coming next week. You know, it seems like it's going to be just an hour-long piece on Luke Skywalker, which is fantastic. Now, I hope, there's other interviews that I feel like we didn't get in the previous making of episode that they put out there. Again, I think probably because they were in the finale, but we didn't hear from Katie Sackhoff. Hopefully we hear from her and her thoughts on this. I don't think there was any from, did they interview? I can't remember if Giancarlo Esposito was on in there or not. I can't remember if he was or not. So maybe he was or not. I don't know. And of course, Mark Hamill. You got to get Mark Hamill, which he's on there.
Yeah.
So that drops on Disney Plus next Wednesday, August 25th. So go check that out, and we'll talk about it next week on Inside the Force here.
Yeah.
Okay, so some really quick minor news. Not much to really talk about because this one's a big rumor. I actually saw this today that apparently there's a possibly a Finn Disney Plus series in the works.
The thing is, as I saw the article today, but yeah. I've heard this rumor weeks ago, frankly. Like I don't even remember where I saw it, but someone posted that it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I was like, really though? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love to learn more about Finn and his adventures. But at the same time, I feel like his storyline is done.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I read, I don't know if you read this, but what I read is the rumored story of this is it's going to be set in 2 time periods. There's going to be a flashback of him before he turns from or walks away from the First Order. And then part of it set after the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. But that's what I mean is that yeah. I don't know what story you need to tell. Like, would it be really, really fascinating to follow someone that we're familiar with and see how those kids were brainwashed into becoming stormtroopers and losing their identity? I think that would be really fascinating to see how they did that.
Yeah.
But as far as we know, based on his story, his main turning point was shooting civilians and watching someone who we assume was a close friend of his die in battle.
See, that's the thing. It was a close friend because there was a book that came out that told the story between him and his 3 squad members.
Oh, I did not know about
that. One of them that died was one of his friends, and then the other one was the one that he fought later. It called him traitor.
Oh yeah, him.
Talking about.
Yeah. Cool. So then, like, all right, that's awesome.
But no one really knows that because it's a small, junior novel that came out.
Right. It's just I wonder if that's taking it a step too far. Like with Poe, it's understandable why we needed a book kind of setting Poe up. Mm-hmm. Finn, do we need it? Because we've been with him on this journey already, and we already see why he chose to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And sure, we don't know what he's doing after.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's going to be something like Aftermath, where even though Palpatine's gone, the First Order still is sprinkled throughout the galaxy. So it's a matter of clearing out all those battles. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, that could be interesting to see if that's what they were planning on doing with Finn, doing a type of aftermath type of story.
Well, he's also, they hinted that he was force sensitive. So does he train with Rey?
Who knows? Rey buried her lightsaber. I mean,
not her lightsaber.
Not her lightsaber, but she buried 2 lightsabers. So what is she? I don't know.
Well, she better start the Jedi Order again and train so that all the Jedi can come back in the galaxy, because that's what I want to see. Oh, excuse me. That's what I want to see in the future.
Then maybe the story is Finn and Rey co-found this new Jedi Academy, and he's still learning, but because they are literally 2 of the only people left, but we focus more on him than we do Rey. I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm with you. I don't know. It'd have to be a really intriguing story to do that. And I don't know. Yeah. I don't know anybody that's really screaming for this, to be honest. So now you want to do a Rey series where she's starting the Jedi Order.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'd be all for that.
I'd be all for that too. That'd be interesting. Okay, so that's completely rumor. So we won't really dive more into that, because who knows if that's even going to happen.
Right.
Apparently, it was there was a couple filmmakers that were developing a Star Wars movie, and those are the ones that are technically tasked with converting that movie into a Finn series. So that's kind of where that came from. Okay. Another announcement that came the other day was a new comic series.
Yes.
That is coming after War of the Bounty Hunters, which is running right now. And it's called Star Wars Crimson Reign. Now, who would have thunk it that we're getting a lot of Kira right now? So this series apparently is going to take place right after War of the Bounty Hunters. It's going to focus on Kira and Crimson Dawn, which again is a new crime syndicate that technically was introduced during Solo. So now that we're finding out that Crimson Dawn's been around for a long time, started by Maul, and now continued through Kira. Charles Soule, the fantastic comic writer who is writing War of the Bounty Hunters right now, is writing this 5-part series. And apparently this is part of what he said was a planned trilogy of storylines. So you have War of the Bounty Hunters, you have Crimson Reign, and then there's another one that's unannounced right now. But we will be, Hannah, you and I will be tackling War of the Bounty Hunters soon. Once that series wraps up, we'll kind of wrap that into our show. I don't know if you've been reading the ones I've been posting up there.
I've been reading them.
Sweet. Okay. So number 3 just dropped. I'll upload that for you. That came out last week. But I don't know. What is this? So unlike is this a story you're interested in at all?
I mean, I love the movie Solo, but her character was just so uninteresting to me.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Also, it just could be that Emilia Clarke, love you in Game of Thrones, but you don't have to play the same character in every movie you're in. Because I was watching it and I'm like, it's Daenerys.
Yeah.
It's not this other. It's Daenerys. So that just bugged me the entire time. But I when I first heard that this was coming out, I just was kind of like, really? We're exploring more of that. Oh, okay, sure, whatever. I mean, we'll take it. But it's not one that I'm necessarily screaming for or even thought of even wanting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about you?
That's interesting because I think, I'm definitely with you on the Solo. Like, I think, I actually think she's a good actress.
Yes, she's stunning.
Yeah. She does have a tendency uh, of being Amelia Clark in a lot of her characters. Um, but the thing about it is, I think it was interesting for me, it was interesting to learn obviously about this Crimson Dawn during Solo. I think that was it was an interesting way to bring in a new syndicate, not just focus on the Pikes or Black Sun or something like that, right? You had to bring in a different kind of syndicate that, uh, you know, made Solo or had give him a reason to fall into this way of life, right? And of course, no one saw, at least I didn't, no one saw the whole thing about Maul being in charge of this thing.
No.
And the fact that, she takes out Dryden to take over that portion of it. Now, because I guess he's one of the, I don't know, subordinates of Maul. But I'm more interested in that story.
Yes.
About,
yes.
You know what I mean? Like Maul working for Maul directly. And
how did he set that up? Because I mean, it sort of sets up the final season of Clone Wars when he was like, I'm totally like, I'm against the drug war going on and all the different groups against each other. But then in this, we're like, you literally started one / took one over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I agree with you. I want that story. Yeah. I want to know how that happened. How did he get into that?
I do too. Yeah, I do too. So that's, hopefully that's maybe they get into that. Maybe they get into that whole beginning parts of Crimson Dawn and build it from there, because I think that's a Disney Plus series.
Oh yes. That would be very cool to watch.
Yeah, 100%. But anyway, Kira, it is interesting to know that she has survived through the original trilogy.
Yeah.
I think there is a possibility. What do you think? The possibility of Amelia Clark actually coming back on like Mandalorian? Do you even want to see that?
I don't need to see it.
You don't need to see it? Okay.
And once again, I'd rather put that investment in learning how Maul got to where he was in that Crimson. Yeah. I'd rather see that. I mean, like, would it be a cool little cameo? Sure. But it's not, once again, it's not something I'm demanding.
Yeah, very interesting. Because they haven't yet. They are with Andor. Because if I think about this correctly, I guess Andor is the first time they're kind of bridging the gap between movies and Disney Plus, right? I mean, am I saying that right? Like the Andor character, right, is going to be Cassian Andor from Rogue One has got his own Disney Plus series. So it's like,
I think so.
I don't know if they've moved anybody over, well, besides Luke, obviously, in that last episode, but like a whole series around a character from the movies. They haven't done that, right?
No, they haven't done it. I mean, you can argue that Boba Fett would be the first.
Oh, well, true. Boba Fett coming to Mandalorian. Yes.
You could argue that. You could argue the Clone Wars in and of themselves are a bridge, but it's not a character from a movie being on a Disney Plus show. Like, and have that show be revolved around them.
Around them, correct? Yeah. So, and Book of Boba Fett's going to happen, so something like that is coming too. But, yeah, so that's kind of out there. But it, there's looks like they're starting to do that more. They're obviously starting to bridge that gap between, live action movies and Disney Plus, and there is no difference or separation. It's all continuity wise the same. So it's possible. I think Kira, she's obviously a popular person, so I think she's even mentioned that she'd come back and do something else. So we'll see. Okay, so before we get into some Bad Batch discussion, just wanted to mention, again, that Crimson Reign comic doesn't start till November. Yes. So after the War of the Bounty Hunters ends. Other upcoming releases, just want to let everybody know on the novels side, there is an audio drama that's dropping August 31st. It's a High Republic audio drama written by Kevin Scott, who just recently wrote the book, The Rising Storm, that just recently came out. So this is called the High Republic Tempest Runner. That drops August 31st, like I said, on your audiobooks libraries. You got the Star Wars Visions novel Ronin that comes out October 12th. You've got Queen's Hope coming out November 2nd. I cannot wait for that book.
That's going to be so good.
Yeah. And then you've got Thrawn Ascendancy Lesser Evil coming out November 16th. That's the third book in the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy. Comics wise, it's all the crossovers are still happening right now. Star Wars 16 just dropped this week, which is a War of the Bounty Hunters tie-in. Coming next week, you've got Darth Vader 15 and Dr. Aphra 13. Both of those again are War of the Bounty Hunters crossovers. So lots and lots of that stuff going on. Okay, so the Bad Batch. Wow. So all 16 episodes have dropped now. The finale was last week, called Kamino Lost. And let's just take it back, since you haven't been on this show, Hannah. Let's just take it back and just talk about the two-part finale in general, right? Let's look at both, because it's basically one big episode. What are your feelings and thoughts about, just in general, the final two episodes?
It's solid. It's so good. I think that does answer one question that we always thought of, is, well, whatever happened to Kamino? Now we know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also, I think just the show in general, and then those last two episodes, they help solidify the transition from clones to stormtroopers and recruiting people to be a stormtrooper. So I think that helped bridge that. But once again, you fall in love with all these characters. I will say, I think my biggest complaint, I'm really tempted to share it, but also I don't want to, because spoilers. I think they hammer something home that didn't need as much hammering as they gave it. It almost felt like they were trying to stretch it into 2 episodes versus just try to keep it at one longer one. That's my opinion of that. But in general, I think the situation the Bad Batch found themselves in, definitely, it raised the stakes. Mm-hmm. It revealed quite a number of things. And it hurt to watch, but it was still very, very solid and really good. Like how normal Star Wars do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm thinking the same way, in the sense that I rated, I rated episode 15, mm-hmm. The Return to Kamino, a lot higher than episode 16, right?
completely and utterly agree.
Because I think even though it was good, I didn't necessarily really, I didn't really want to see an entire season finale episode be just an escape, right? Or a survival type.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you said, I feel like you could have condensed that down like to half the episode and then have more of a conclusion, more, dialogue, but, than just a simple one that was on the platform at the end. It was just,
Yeah.
I think there was more there. I think there could have been more there with Crosshair and trying to get him back with the group. So in that sense, I think that it suffered a little bit from just that wow factor and that intrigue, right? So, but either way, I mean, a lot of what we learned in those episodes with Kamino, with Omega, and with the chip, if the chip even is still in him or not, it's like there's still some questions out there, and I think they set it up good for the next season with Nala Se going into that cloning facility. So, I was happy with it. It wasn't as strong of a finale, I think, that some of these other seasons of shows have done, especially Rebels. I feel like Rebels always ended incredibly. So anyway, I was happy with it, but I was definitely happier with episode 15. I feel like.
I completely agree. I don't, and I think you hit it on the head. It's just, I feel like it could have been wrapped up better, but now it's making me think, what if, sorry, I'm blanking out on that scientist's name again from Kamino.
Oh, Nala Se.
Yeah, Nala Se. Do you think this is how they're going to tie in Palpatine wanting himself cloned?
I've heard a lot of people say that, and we talked about that on Mandalore. I definitely think that eventually it does become some research for that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, since you've talked about a couple of things, I'll then share this. It's just, I feel like in this episode, they kept on coming back to, why aren't you with us? Or why did you leave me? Mm-hmm. We're constantly coming back to the same conversation. It's like, oh my gosh, we've already hashed this out enough. We don't need this conversation X many times. Let's just take out a couple of these, condense it. And yeah, I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think I almost would have preferred the season to end the way that episode 15 ended.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Pick up the new season with them and their escape. I think that would be way more powerful. It's also a cliffhanger because, obviously they're going to survive. There's a whole another season, but I feel like if they ended it at episode 15,
yes,
it would have been a solid run.
Yeah. And I questioned this. A couple weeks ago that it was really odd to me that they announced that season 2 was going to happen before the end of the season.
Yeah.
Because like you just said, how awesome would it have been if, the Star Destroyers are just tearing down Kamino and then it just cuts to black. And then you have that logo pop up and says season 2 coming. I mean, it's like, that's how you announce a season 2. And then you be like, oh my God, I got to wait this long to see what happens. Totally agree. And I would have been fine with that. I feel like, with Rebels, even with Clone Wars, I feel like they always tried to, to wrap up the season
Mm-hmm.
because those didn't have cliffhangers that carried over really. You had these little things like you did in this, where you had this scientist come out and say, "We've got great plans for you," and then it's like, "Oh, what's going to happen?" And then I
Right.
remember at the end of season 1 of Rebels, we saw Darth Vader walk in, but it was a conclusion to that season. There wasn't any like cliffhanger, right? It's just, oh, there's Vader now. He's going to be in season 2. So this is kind of the same thing. I think I would have liked, yeah, I actually would have liked seeing this. I mean, because think about it with even with Mandalorian, like we haven't really had a cliffhanger at the end of the seasons,
No.
right?
I feel like with Bad Batch, you're safe doing that. And then if for some reason it didn't do well, you can say, well, they all perished. They all perished in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, it is technically a conclusion.
Yes. Well,
So,
you can't really, and you can't do a cliffhanger probably unless you know it's going to come back, right?
right, exactly.
Yeah. So, because I feel like you just said, like you could have watched this first season, and if they don't renew it, I mean, it's over. I mean,
That's fine.
yeah, where are we going? We don't even really know where this is really going. So,
And I think that's the problem too, is that, well, this feels like it's done. What more is there for them to
well,
do?
that's what. Let's talk about that then. Let's talk about your possible storylines, or where would you like to see this go in season 2? I mean, what's what storylines are piquing your interest at all?
I have no idea.
Really?
I don't, because I mean, I guess more of them helping the rebellion, but we've already seen a good chunk of that. Like, I'm trying to think of what is new.
Yeah.
What would be a new storyline for them to go down? Because for this, it's pretty obvious. It's survive and somehow get back Crosshair.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's not happening. So,
What's that happening? The crosshair thing?
yeah,
Yeah.
like, obviously, that's not happening. So then the question is, like, what else is there to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
What big mystery is out there that they have to track down?
who what's that?
I said, like, what big mystery is out there that they have to track down? Like, it's like it feels like they did not think this was going to do well. That's what this felt like. It felt like it wasn't going to do well, and then in the middle, when they realized it was doing well, then they were like, oh, we should do a season 2. That's what the end of season 1 felt like for me.
Interesting. Okay. I think there is there's some nuggets there that they dropped in this season. Obviously, one was Rex.
Yes.
I think there's something there still. Another's Gregor, who we've seen in both of those in Cena Rebels. The Wolf is still out there. I'm sure he's going to pop up in season 2 because he's again in Rebels as well with the two of them. So there is something there. I think with there isn't a rebellion yet.
Yeah.
But there are rebel cells, right? Or there's rebel cells beginning, and that's what I think we could see. I think somehow. I'll say what I want to see. I want to see. I actually want to see a little bit of the political side. Because we've now seen how Palpatine and Tarkin have started converting the clones to civilians, right? Yeah. Which was always a big kind of mystery on when that happened. How did that happen? Are any of the stormtroopers clones and stuff like that? So we're getting answers to that. I think what I would like to know, and this is just the Star Wars geek in me, I would like to know how Palpatine, who again, has convinced this entire galaxy to elect him emperor forever. Uh, how do those Senate sessions look like? What do those Senate sessions look like now that pretty much half the senators wanted him to be emperor, but then of course there's a big half of them that think it's crazy that he's the emperor. None of them know that he's the Dark Lord of the Sith.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because if you remember, it's not until episode 4, 19 years later, that he dissolves the Senate. So for 19 years, he's sitting there still going through Senate sessions and governing the galaxy, which is a little odd because we're seeing how the Empire is just going out and pretty much destroying worlds, right? Or holding hostage worlds, or indoctrinating martial law, basically, and basically saying you need to do this now for the Empire, without giving anybody really the free will to decide. So, and most of that's being done in the Outer Rim worlds, where the Inner Rim and the Core world, people don't really even probably know that that's going on. So anyway, that part is really interesting to me because I do think they'll bring in. I do think we'll see a Bail Organa or maybe an Amon Mothma. I think people like that'll start these rebellions.
Oh, yeah.
But how does that tie into the Bad Batch? That part I don't know.
I was about to say, like, who out of them would end up being the quote unquote politician?
Well, I probably not a politician, but part of me feels like they start running missions for a rebel cell. Maybe they're helping Bail on something, or yeah, that's the only thing I could think of, because he does say to Crosshair at the end there. He says, we want different things, right? Crosshair wants to run with the Empire and basically rule the galaxy, and the rest of the crew, the Bad Batch, they see how corrupt and just evil the Empire is, and they know that was what they were fighting against.
Yeah.
Right. So they, I think they have to join the fight, just like kind of what Rex said. I think somehow they got to join it, and that's the only path I actually see for them. I don't know any other path to this storyline, because why would they go underground and keep working for Sid? I mean, where does that going to get you? That's not really going to get you anywhere. So
yeah, maybe we get more of Rex then. Maybe they join up with Rex essentially.
Yeah, I think they have to. Or else Rex points them in the right direction or something like that. But I think, and then you still have Omega. I still think there's something there. Like,
yeah,
I don't know what it is. I don't know if she becomes somebody that we're familiar with later down the road.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out myself. Like, what is Omega's significance?
Yeah. I think it's odd right now that there's really no question marks around her right now. We know now that she is, a genetic, unaltered copy of Jango, just, a female version. So she's the same age as Boba Fett. And
now she doesn't age at all because she's older than everyone on the Bad Batch.
Right. She's like Boba Fett. She's a pure clone of Jango. So she just ages normally, meaning that she's probably 12, 13 years old at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, who does she end up growing up and becoming? And, does she have a significance later on? I don't know. Does Boba Fett end up finding out about her? Things like that, I think
that would be interesting.
Yeah. I think stuff like that is very intriguing. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know I don't. She had to have been added to this series for a reason, besides just being that unaltered female clone of Django.
Yeah. Also, just to, I mean, but like, she's there because she's keeping the themes of fathers. You
Yeah,
got Mandalorian you got Mando being a dad now. You got Hunter being a dad. They're just keeping the theme alive.
true, very true. Yeah, it's just a little odd, seeing this elite group of soldiers, and then there's a 13-year-old kid that's part of the squad. It's not like they're protecting her; she's actually part of the squad.
And like they all have a unique gift aspect, whatever you want to call it. I thought we were going to get what hers was by the end of the season.
Right, but it doesn't seem like she has anything.
I don't think she has anything, which once again goes, well, then what's so special about her?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. So, so it's interesting. You don't really have any desires of where you want this thing to go necessarily.
It's not that I don't have a desire. I just don't know where else it would go.
Yeah.
Besides fight the rebellion, join the team, be a part of it, help start it. But that seems so predictable. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get more info because I feel like it could be better than that. But
well, and I've said this each week too, is I think since it is Filoni, Filoni's the executive on this thing, I think some aspect of the Force has to be on the show at some point.
Oh, it has to be. It's not a question of whether or not it's going to happen. It's when it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So the question is, who do they run into?
Yep.
I mean, do they run into Kenobi at some point?
I think that's a possibility. I see Ahsoka as a big possibility.
That would hurt if it was Ahsoka. That would hurt.
That would hurt?
No, like get you in the feels.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I meant. I meant like that'll get you right in the feels.
Yeah.
It would emotionally hurt.
Emotionally, yes. Yeah, emotionally hit on your heart. Yeah, totally.
Maybe they run into Kanan again at some point.
I mean, I think they could. Yeah, I think they could. I think that's a possibility. They could track him down, maybe. His book, in the book that we went over, he does find his way pretty quickly after that, but he definitely could run into him. Definitely.
Who knows? Maybe they're responsible for getting Hera and Kanan together.
It could be. Yeah, see, that's another one. Hera, I think that was intent, because I think she'll be around again, in later seasons. But interesting to find out later how far this thing goes. 3 seasons, 4 seasons.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have 6 seasons. They'll wait a couple of years and then give us the final season.
God, they better not.
No, they better not, but
yeah, they better not. I do think, honestly, one last thing I'll say is I do think this is truly Filoni's way of completing the Clone Wars.
Yes. Oh, no doubt. No doubt at all.
You know what I mean? Like he was able to finish the Clone Wars, but he wasn't able to really complete it.
Yeah.
So there's storylines that were left, like Cad Bane.
Mm-hmm.
I think Boba Fett's another one I think he's going to bring into this series. So I think there's some storylines there that, he's wrapping up in this and also setting the stage, bridging the gap between Rebels, by bringing in Hera and Chopper and Kanan, at the beginning of the first episode. So, there's Sabine. Maybe Sabine shows up as well. Sabine's too young at this point, I think, because
she's too.
She was just born, I think.
Maybe they go to Mandalore.
Next, they definitely could go to Mandalore. Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Nope, totally. Like we just said, though, could we see the starting stages of Maul and Crimson Dawn in this? Right?
That would be cool.
Yeah. So
that would be cool.
That would be cool. And don't be surprised because Maul, he's the one that brought Maul to life. So back to life with George, obviously. But
yeah, so if we see Maul again, we'll be like, oh look.
Yeah. All right. So Bad Batch season 2 probably not getting back to us until next summer, I guess. So the one thing about these animated series is that they're usually about a year in advance have these things done. So I'm guessing most of the season 2 is pretty much done. They're just waiting to premiere it. So, but probably won't be till next year. So that will do it for us. Woo! Hannah, thanks so much for hanging with me on this episode.
Well, thank you. Glad we could do one of these, and can't wait to jump back into Beyond the Saga.
That's right. Which we got some brand new episodes coming here shortly. We're continuing some of those outstanding stories. We're definitely continuing the Star Wars comic series that we're in the middle of, and then of course we're jumping into other novels and comics as well. So go to our YouTube channel if you want to watch our past episodes of Inside the Forest, as well as Beyond the Saga council sessions. We got some great content on there. Of course, we're on all the podcast feeds, so keep your subscriptions there. And be back next week to hit up our weekly episode of Inside the Force. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you next week. May the Force be with you.